right, so good news. I'm super stoked. She seems kind of excited. Hold on, I'm about to die. Okay, we have a tour. It's about 45 minutes away from right now. The tour is about an hour and 15 minutes long. I will be filming the entire hour and 15 minute long tour. Now the video I'll put out for it won't be for an hour 15 minutes, but yeah, but I mean, so as a little background, this biosphere was, you remember back when we, in my generation, when we were kids and they were talking about moving to Mars and they were going to make a greenhouse on Mars and all this other kind of stuff to see if we're, you know, they're going to send out like 20 people and just to see if it would work and all this other kind of stuff. This is what the biosphere is. They were here for 2 years and 20 minutes as an experiment. They got locked in there and they survived for 2 years. Ocean, rainforest, desert, water of life experiments, all kinds of different things. That's just incredible. Imagine being that. I guess they built it out in the 80s. Or in the 80s, I should say. Yeah. Back when I was built by my mama.
Barely.
Whatever.
You're an 89 baby.
In March, the beginning of 89, thank you very much. We're gonna wait on the tour guide. We got like 10 minutes. And we'll see you guys inside.
Well, enjoy the video, guys, and I'll come get you in about 12 minutes.
And when we look at the enormous variety of forms within the biosphere, the arena of life, we witness the result of thousands of generations of genetic adaptations to a changing environment. This is the inspiration for the name Biosphere 2. Earth science is the study of how the geosphere, the hydrosphere, the atmosphere, and the biosphere all interact in a complex system. Biosphere 2 is a living laboratory where scientists examine these interactions in a controlled environment.
And the original idea of Biosphere 2 was to see if we could sustain human life in a closed environment. And the idea was that if we could achieve that goal here on planet Earth, then what's to say we can't do it on other planets or moons or even asteroids? The idea of space exploration starts to become tangible once you can successfully achieve that goal of sustaining human life in a closed environment. LEO stands for Landscape Evolution Observatory, and it's the flagship research project of the U of A right now, and it's actually the largest earth science research project in the world. So LEO is trying to do a few things at once. You can see that there's a giant hill slope. This is just one giant hill slope. We have 3 of these hill slopes in each one of our rooms. We have 1 million pounds of crushed volcanic rock on this hill slope, and we've got about 1,800 sensors buried at different depths in this hill slope. Now, Leo's trying to do a few things at once, but the big thing we're trying to do is understand the water cycle better. So what we can do is we can rain on our hill slope using our sprinkler system here. That rainwater will hit the ground and then start to travel through the soil. Those sensors will then pick up on that water movement and then produce a 3D image or map for our scientists to look at. So the idea is when it rains, let's say on Mount Lemmon, that rainwater leaves the cloud and hits the ground. How exactly does it get to us? How exactly does it get to an aquifer or groundwater? Those kinds of questions we're hoping to answer with LEO. So that's 1, we can conserve it better for us, and 2, so we can just understand it better. Okay, so our rainforest here is based off of the Amazon rainforest. So most of the plants in here were taken from the Amazon River Basin, Venezuela, and some other countries in Central and South America. Total, we have about 100 species of plants, trees, and vines in here. Originally, we had over 2,000 species, but we just kind of let natural selection take its course. We also had 200 species of animals and insects introduced into here, but we really only have your creepy crawlies nowadays. So we've got lots of ants, lots of spiders, lots of cockroaches, and they are actually very important to us because they do all of our pollination in here, because our flying insects don't really last too long, because flying insects, a lot of pollinators like bees for example, they use ultraviolet light to navigate from flower to flower, and our glass prevents a lot of that ultraviolet light from entering in here, so we don't have a lot of flying pollinators like bees in here. So in 1996, Columbia University took over ownership of Biosphere 2, and they wanted to study the effects of carbon dioxide on our different biomes, including our rainforest. Now, rainforests produce about 20% of our world's oxygen, even though they only cover about 7% of our land area. So they're very important to humans and a lot of life on planet Earth. So Columbia University put up this wall right here. This wall was not originally here, and they began to pump carbon dioxide into this room. They rose the concentration of carbon dioxide all the way up to 800 parts per million. To give you a reference, we just hit 415 parts per million on planet Earth, so they just about doubled our current concentration of carbon dioxide. But what they found was significant at 600 parts per million, so right in between. At 600 parts per million, these plants actually stopped absorbing that carbon dioxide and began to re-emit it back into the atmosphere. This was contrary to the belief at the time that plants could just keep absorbing and absorbing and absorbing without really an end. But now we do know that plants can become oversaturated with carbon dioxide. There's a threshold or a limit to the amount that they can absorb. We can head over to the ocean. If the last person could close the door behind them, I'd really appreciate it. Thank you. Here is the largest research ocean tank in the world. It is a 1 million gallon tank, 700,000 gallons of water and about 300,000 gallons of rocks. Of the 700,000 gallons of water, about 600,000 gallons is made in-house. So it's pretty much just tap water and instant ocean mix, nothing special. 100,000 gallons, however, was taken directly from the Pacific Ocean, the San Diego Bay area in particular. So oceans do some very important services for us as well. They actually produce half of our world's oxygen. I've even heard of numbers closer to 70% of our world's oxygen comes from oceans. But either way, a lot of oxygen. So even though we're in the Sonoran Desert right now, every other breath we're taking, that oxygen is coming from our world's oceans. So just like how Columbia University did their carbon dioxide research on the rainforest, they also did carbon dioxide research on the ocean. And what they found was that H2O, water, is mixing with CO2, carbon dioxide, and it's making H2CO3, which is carbonic acid. So our oceans are becoming more acidic as a result of the amount of carbon dioxide in our atmosphere. Well, we're doing something here at Biosphere 2 that I personally am very, very excited for. It's called our Coral Initiative, and we're paired with the University of Hawaii for this. So researchers, scientists, marine biologists, when they go to these dead coral reefs, they always find a couple of species that are still alive. And they're wondering, well, what makes these species special when everything else died off? They're taking these apparently super resistant coral species, they're bringing them here to Biosphere 2, and we're gonna breed them. We're gonna breed them with some of those species that did die off to make super resistant hybrids. We're then gonna put these super resistant hybrids in our ocean here. We're gonna crank up the temperature to see really how resistant they are. But if all goes well, fingers crossed, we'll be able to repopulate the world's coral reefs with these hybrid species. So, you might be thinking, why do we have a desert in here? We've got one right outside. Well, we're not doing any active research on our deserts, but this desert was very important during the original SEALed mission. So desert plants would be important to bring to another planet, like let's say like Mars or the Moon or something like that. And desert plants would be important to bring. You might already be thinking of a couple of things. They use less water, that's nice, right? They are used to dry soil, like kind of arid soil, that's nice. But a big one is oxygen. So the rainforest would have produced most of the oxygen needed in here for those 8 people. But rainforest plants, like a lot of plants, release all of their oxygen during the daytime, and then at nighttime they kind of shut down and go dormant for the night. whereas desert plants do the opposite. So desert plants are dormant or like kind of asleep in a sense during the daytime, and then at nighttime they open their pores and release all that oxygen.
I had a question.
Yes.
Since starting the tours and bringing a lot more people and
Yeah.
everything here, has anything changed for the climate?
So
Yeah, I was just wondering because those people were here for 2 years, and then now the doors are being open and closed more.
yeah,
There's
and that
more
changes. That changes. So
body
that-
heat and everything else goes into it. So I was wondering if there's
we control the air temperature a little bit. I mean, this place is not air conditioned though.
Right.
That'd be impossible, or you would use way too much energy. We use a form of air handlers where, let's say we wanted to heat the air up here, okay? Let's say it's very cold, but let's do the opposite. All right, it's very hot, okay? Because that makes more sense. It's very hot in here. We need to cool off this air up here. We have these giant fans. We'll actually pass them. We'll pass one. I think one of them's on right now. That these giant fans that would suck in cool water, they would blow air over that cool water, which would cool that
swamp
air
cooler?
off. Yeah, it's pretty much exactly like a swamp cooler, and then that cool air can be pumped upstairs, and that helps us regulate the air temperature a bit. I mean, if it's 110 degrees outside, though, it's definitely gonna influence the temperature in here. But we just have to try to make sure it doesn't get overly hot, where it's to the point where it starts killing plants. So the seal, this place was airtight, like I've said multiple times, and that seal was broken 2 times. The first time was only a few weeks into the mission. Jane Pointer, funny enough, her last name is Pointer, cut off her pointer finger. And now one of the 8 people was a doctor, but this place was not a hospital. So for medical reasons, he was like, you should go to a hospital. So she left for a total of 6 hours to get a skin graft and all that jazz. And then she actually got sealed back in and finished out the 2 years. The second time the seal was broken was that we did have to pump oxygen in here. For a few reasons. Now, this place was built in '91, and we immediately locked people in here. Well, not immediately, but a few months later, we locked people in here. And so concrete, it takes like a few days to set, but it takes years to cure. And while it's curing, it's absorbing carbon dioxide and it's absorbing oxygen. So the oxygen was very slowly going into the concrete. Plus, our bacteria in our soil in the rainforest was very fresh, new, and aerobic, meaning it uses oxygen to reproduce and things like that. So our oxygen was slowly going into the concrete and the ground. We had been watching it over the course of about 1.5 years, watching it slowly drop, but we had hoped that whatever was causing it would kind of bottom out and then start to rise again, because we didn't know exactly what was causing it, because we couldn't have people come in here and do tests, right? That would defeat the purpose of having this place sealed. But eventually, it got a low enough point where for the safety of the 8 people, we pumped oxygen in here. So we get a lot of criticism for that, a big failure and stuff like that. But honestly, I know I work for Biosphere too, and so I need to defend them. But in all honesty, I mean, show me a science experiment, first of its kind, that was like a huge success the very first time.
That didn't have any problems at all.
They didn't have any problems.
Yeah,
it's always the hundreds to even thousands of failures where you learn from each one of those mistakes until finally you get something that works. All right, so let's head to the one. So this is our south lawn. And once again, I'll bring up the fact that this place was airtight, right guys? There's a reason we've got submarine lock type doors. Little to no air exchange to the outside world. So this room doesn't have much use anymore, but back during the sealed mission of those 2 years, it was extremely important. So when you have air in a closed container, like a jar or a balloon, and you heat that air up, those air molecules are going to expand. So the air would have expanded, it would have come down that tunnel that we just walked down, it would have filled up this room, and if it continued to heat up and expand, it would have put pressure on this disc here and on the walls, and eventually it would have started to raise this disc in the air, about 60 feet. And
That's
then let's
badass.
say it's a cold winter night. The air in Biosphere 2 is going to condense, it's going to lose energy, and this disc is going to start to lower to the ground, pushing the air back up into Biosphere 2. So this is 16 tons of aluminum and 4 tons of synthetic stretchable rubber. So it's 40,000 pounds being held up just by air pressure. It puts us in the 50 wonders of the world. Not really sure what that means, but supposedly we're on that list because of this room.
So
The
it
wall.
ca-
Sorry, keep going. Yeah.
So it kind of has the same effect then in the summertime, or when you start driving your vehicle, the air pressure inside your tires expand.
Exactly. It's
they
a
get
great.
warm.
It gets warm to the point where it might even pop. Right. That's when you get a blowout.
That's how
or
you
something
blow out
like
tires.
That.
So the tires get too hot and the air.
Exact same idea. So to prevent a blowout on our glass, because that boom, there goes $150 million. There goes the
Right.
whole point of the mission.
They
We
built
had
this.
room, so it's just called a variable volumetric chamber because it can change its volume or vary its volume. It can grow to have a lot of space or not much space at all, just to meet whatever the air pressure needs.
At its lowest point, what's the volume, and at its highest point, do you know the
I'm
volume?
not sure. Oh, wow, I don't know. That's a good question. I should know that, but I do not.
It's just to see the square
It
volume.
can
or
get up
whatever
to
it is.
60 feet. It never reached the top of its point, to my knowledge, in the 2 years. And plenty of times it did go to the ground, though.
Yeah, I can see the pegs hit the ground.
So the water in the middle is just to meet fire code. It's nothing special, unfortunately.
Oh, I thought it was kind of cool the air because the water would kind of help cool the air.
that's a good idea. Maybe that's, wow, I wonder if that's a reason they put that in
I'm just a
there.
truck driver, I swear.
So that could have been a reason they put it in, specifically chose this area to put it in. I've never heard that though before. It's a really good hypothesis, at least.
Yeah.
And so as we go through that door, this room's going to depressurize. The air in here is going to go rushing out that door. And it's going to want to take you with it. So you're going to have a strong wind at your back as you walk through the door. It's not overly forceful, but I want everyone to be aware of it. So be careful as you walk through it. We are run 3% right now off of solar, which I know doesn't seem like a lot, but we do use a lot of energy. And we're hoping nothing is set in stone, but to my knowledge, we are going to try moving in that direction over the next years. I'm not sure.
I was just wondering because the original experiment was just to sustain life in here,
Right,
with energy, with the solar and everything.
Exactly. So if we were to go to Mars, there isn't going to be a power plant next door.
Right, so
you
it'd
would
all be
have to
solar.
you would have to do some kind of renewable. But yeah, so that's what we wanted to do. But late 80s, and one of the reasons we chose Arizona, because we were in between several places, but one of the reasons we chose Arizona is all the sunlight, so that the
Right.
plants could photosynthesize well and all that stuff. So, good question.
When volcanoes explode, they kill all plant life, but somehow it still regains life on top of that.
Which
So-
is another part of what we want to. It's actually one of the kind of the ideas we're studying with Leo. Is yeah, exactly. So it explodes, it decimates the area around the volcano. But you come back in a few decades or so.
Right.
There's plants growing, there's
it's
birds chirping.
huge vegetation. It's
Yeah.
like a reset button, basically.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what we were studying actually. Also part of phase 1, we were just studying the kind of the bacterial populations in the soil and how they were evolving to because that's what we were curious about. Like how does soil become soil?
Right.
Which could also transfer over to inhabiting Mars. Like how do we turn Mars soil into soil?
Right.
And so that it was one part of what we were doing with this. So guys, any last questions before I kick you guys out of here? Anything?
No.
So to leave, guys, there is the ramp that you probably came down, that kind of L-shaped ramp right there, and that will take you up to the stairs, up to the casita